Hello there, and as usual, I'm Aaron from Laststandgamers, and welcome. So today we're going to be talking about building drones. I'm going to give you some useful tips and tricks and try to deliver the video in a very concise manner and keep it short and sweet. So first off, what do we need to build a successful drone? Well, I've listed it into 5 simple steps. Now, first one is power source. Are we going to be going uranium, hydrogen, or battery? Now, in my personal preference, uranium can be hard to find, and if we want to mass produce these guys, it's going to be a little bit difficult. Where the hydrogen requires ice storage, and the system is not perfect for a drone, where batteries is really the way you want to go. So now we've got that out of the way, how are we going to connect to this drone? The laser antenna, of course, is super quiet and no one can see the signal, but the standard antenna allows you to connect in a whole variety of situations. Now, what is the utility going to be of this ship? From step 3, is it going to be an explosive drone? Is it going to be some sort of combat drone? Is it going to be utility? Will it just simply weld up your base? And or will it be a drill? Simple. Is it utility? Is it combat? Now over to step 4. How are you going to build or mass produce this, and how are you going to get supplies inside this ship? So maybe you don't want to mass produce it, but still projecting it would be a hell of a lot easier. And how are you going to get supplies into that reactor? I see a lot of people build reactors inside drones and then question how they're going to have to half build it, half fill that reactor up as they go, and it ends up being a mess. Finally is armor. Now, the more armor you add, the less efficient the thrusters are going to be, and if you're trying to keep it compact like we're trying to do, we want to have minimal thrusters. You can see the A-bot here in the background only has 2 thrusters and minimal armor to protect some important areas. Now, what I will say is protection comes at a cost, and the cost is usually in weight. And as you can see with the A-bot here, we have a fatal problem. The problem is as simple as this. If I cut back the armor on the front here, we have an exposed antenna and control block. If these get destroyed, we're either not going to be able to control it, or we're not going to be able to connect to it, and that's a serious problem for any sort of drone. Now, if it's on a remote control path and this block is shot out, it'll simply stop. So these are really important for protection. So we need to protect these guys up, seal it with some extra armor. Now, talking about communication, I prefer 2 methods. You can see I've got the laser antenna as well, so I can always turn this off and have the communication with the laser antenna if I need to move into a stealth sort of approach. And then on the side, we've got ourselves the weapons. Now, the interesting thing about this design, it has a large reactor. It has a lot of features this just simply doesn't need. So let's build something a little bit more efficient. But before we do that, I want to show you this. Now, since you're building a drone, you don't have to build it on 3 grids across. For instance, this is actually just 2 grids. You can see the wheels have actually been attached back to back here, and that's what keeps the dog drone so compact and so small. So let's actually jump up into space and we'll have a go up at building. So as we launch ourselves into the stars here, I hope you're thinking about building yourself your own type of drone. So now we've spawned in, I always like to start with the power source, and to do so we're going to start with a large battery. So let's find ourselves a battery, whack that in, and we're pretty much good to go. We've got ourselves a power source online. Now we need the remote control block. So the plan for this particular ship is we're going into it, we want to keep it very flat and thin. So we're going then with a gyroscope, so that's going to allow us to rotate, and then we're going to need an antenna. So that is the drone factor kind of out the way with this one. We've got the bits we need to connect to it. Now we need to talk thrust. So we need thrust in all directions. The reason we need thrust in all directions is purely because if we don't have thrust in all directions, we'll simply just lose control of it. And in remote control status, if you don't have thrust facing down, you won't actually be able to control it, or the block won't be able to. So let's build ourselves some armor in here. And to make this a little bit more effective, we're actually going to go with the symmetry mode. So symmetry down the middle. We'll add ourselves some blocks to this, and we'll just pimp this guy out, and I'll get back to you in a second. So we have ourselves some power. We don't have it in all directions though, so the last thrusters are going to have to go somewhere, and you've just got to kind of work out the most optimal angle. So let's just put the thrusters at that position. So you can see we've still got really quite a flat drone. Now, to be able to see what we're doing, this is something a lot of people forget as well, we're going to need a camera. So now we're just about building the armor up, and since this is going to be a utility sort of transport drone, but we'll throw a turret on there as well, just so it has a bit of a mixed use. We need to protect this front area up just a little. So as we're doing this, we're adding ourselves some very simplistic armor to it. So we've got some basic armor to protect the front. We also need to protect these thrusters, but we don't want to go overboard with the armor because we're adding weight, and the more weight we add, the less efficient the thrusters are going to be used. Now, the final thing I want you to think about is how is this guy actually going to be able to attack the enemy? If the enemy's on the bottom, for instance, then we don't have a turret there. We're going to be a little bit out of luck. So let's stick ourselves a turret on and accidentally delete the gyroscope as well, so I have no gyroscopic control. So let's stick that back in there, and we'll add ourselves a cheeky Gatling. Let's go with a Gatling turret. Missile turrets are overrated. Everyone thinks that they'll blow everything to pieces, but they end up missing half the time. So there we go. We have ourselves a missile turret when it decides to find itself the right shape, and kaboom. There we go. We've got ourselves a very basic drone that would work. It would scout the area, could patrol around your base, and if you fed this with enough ammunition, let's just test it out. This is the best way of doing it. Instead of yapping, Aaron, just get back down to the planet, like so, and let's see if it floats. So when I get down to this sort of stage when I'm drone designing, I'm looking for sort of flaws in it. So we'll teleport a character back there. So we're going to have a look for the new small grid. We'll access the remote control. And we're just looking for some flaws in the design. We're going to rotate it around. We're going to test out. And you can see the battery's still really exposed here. I mean, from this direction, it's particularly protected, but there's a lot that could be done to this. Now, if we're going to refit this for utility, we need a few different things. And the way I'd recommend doing it is actually adding larger thrusters to hold the extra payload. Every time you feed the grinders, the welders, whatever, with them extra supplies, 2 thrusters ain't going to be enough. So as you redevelop and redesign your drones for different situations, you need to think about that. And another quick little tip you could always do is do something like this. You could always just stick a seat on the top here. I know in the Colony Wars series, Pavel's quite a fan of this. So you just get the seat on. Now you can use this as a little transport craft to get you between 2 points. Now the last question you're probably asking is, why is this more effective than a cockpit? Now the reason for this is you can stock your astronaut up with tanks and just look how big that cockpit actually is. But more importantly, let's have a look at the weight of the cockpit. So before cockpit, we have a weight of 9,760, okay, and then with after the cockpit, we have a weight of, yeah, okay, so we've added not a considerable amount of weight, but enough that this could be with ammunition, supplies, extra storage on board. So there you go, a few basic drone ideas. Now the final thing I want to show you though is how to set up GPS coordinates, and this is really useful for patrolling an area. So you can see I've already got some set up over there, so I'm just going to disable these guys, turn them off so they're not visible on the HUD, like so, and then I'm going to set a new one from current position. Now this only works from the character. You can see how it's lit up, basic GPS setting, and then we move to the next location. We go back to our GPS, we set another one, and we set another one over here. Now this is great if you want a constant roaming patrol. It's not so great if you want it to carry supplies and stuff, but there we go. Now we can access our bot, we can go to the remote control block, we can select the waypoint, so it'll be the last 3. We add them, we've added them to that position. We can change the flight mode, circle, patrol, so we're just going to have it on patrol at the moment. We can also choose if it does precision or avoidance as it's moving around, and we just tick the autopilot option. And you can see our drone very quickly speeds between these locations. Now, if you want it to patrol a lot slower, that I personally would, because you can see as it jets to these positions, it's not really patrolling at all. You can simply access it, and this is, I love this feature. This is great. And we can set the speed, so we can set the speed limit down to let's say 13 meters a second. So 13 meters a second is a pretty good patrol speed. It'll spend enough time in each area to kind of just watch that section, get a few of these guys going, or even have a few on some connectors that you can activate, but I'll be showing you that next time. Anyway, I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and if it's helped you out, let me know. And if there's anything else you'd like to know about drone design, or even some inspiration for your own work, let us know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear how you guys like to build these things. Anyway, I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.